Now we are now on chapter 2 with our contemporary health issues. And before I start the lecture with chapter 2 or the lecture on chapter 2, I'd like you to make sure that you have read chapter 1, and I want you to focus on the medical model for health, their definition of health, and also the social model. Those two models, I think, if you understand those two, can take care of the rest of the additional models that were added into the presentation. So, because the medical model deals with the individual, the social model deals with those factors that affect the individual and make them sick. So collectively, those two models, if put together, they can help us understand the definition of health, how health in itself involves other variables. It's not only one thing. As you can see in life, there are so many things that, yeah, certain things might be prominent, but there are other factors that contribute, and health is no different. Contemporary health threats to health. I want you to want us to pause for a minute and just think about what is going on right now in our country when it comes to the COVID virus, when it comes to the preventive measures, when it comes to people accepting the vaccination. The different messages, people talking about issues that they have no theoretical background, no scientific background, is only their own politics. You see, we cannot take away politics from our daily lives, but we should not allow politics to take away common sense. Unfortunately, that is what we're dealing with. Politics have been introduced into health, and some people not knowing better, they believe in some of these falsehoods that, oh, the mask is not useful, the mask cannot help. Scientists have shown that wearing the mask can help you protect yourself and others. Social distancing, oh, does not mean anything. And again, these are things that have been proven. But because of political opinion, politicians, people with loud mouth and big speakers or microphones have injected a certain sort of thinking in this country that makes it difficult for public health to be handled. Yeah, we know there has always been issues with vaccination, but now it's even worse. People saying the vaccination has some chips which people have, implanted into the vaccine that will be injected into people's bodies, which is false. It's just the COVID, a strand of the COVID virus that is in the vaccine. And when it enters into the human body develop antibodies against it. So again, as we're dealing with contemporary threats, this is a big contemporary threat. We have to find a way to get out of this. Okay, these are some of the aims or the goals, so to speak, to develop your understanding of how health threats can be conceptualized, to analyze how changing patterns of health relate to key societal events, to identify the main public health issues within contemporary society. Now, conceptualizing and determining threats to health. Defining what we may see as a threat to health will be intrinsically linked to how we define health. Again, goes back to those models. The way we define health, the way we see those things that within society that will impact health, those things will help us to define health. As you know, in chapter 1, coming up with one definition for health that can be universally accepted is a challenge. But in most cases, you come up with some parameters. You think of determinants. That's why the word determinant was introduced into the definition of health. Those issues, those contributing factors to one's well-being or one's poor well-being. So once you know those, they will help you to understand some of those things that can help in creating a better understanding of what health is. If we define the influence on our health as biological in nature, leading to ill health and malfunctioning of the healthy physiological state of the body, threats will be conceived as factors influencing our biological state. Again, if we only limit ourselves to just the biological factors, our body, microbes, pathogens, and our physiological state of the body, then we can define health in that manner, as it's been influenced by one's biology, the way the body interacts with microbes or pathogens that can take away make the body ill or keep us healthy. Now, if we subscribe to the social model of health and acknowledge the importance of socioeconomic factors in determining well-being and disease, then we will view threats more broadly and shaped by the social world in which we live. You see, listen to this piece. If we subscribe, if we believe to the social model of health and acknowledge the importance of socio-economic factors. Now, socio-economic factors include the economic poor, rich, how society deals with poverty, people that are poor, people that cannot afford to live in a healthy environment, people that cannot afford to live in or go to the health and seek medical service, have access to appropriate medical service, people who are not employed. Because all of these things, they impact the psychology of the individual. And in some cases, they also impact or determine where that person lives. There is a difference between the different socioeconomic factors of different people in this country. Those people with monies live in big houses with all the necessary amenities for health. Those without money live in small houses and in some cases, dilapidated homes, and in a crowded conditions, more people living in them than in some of those people living in big houses that is only occupied by one or two people. And their groceries, where they go get food and other stuff. What sort of food is there in those stores? Areas for recreation, do they have any? So most of the time, these socioeconomic factors play a big part for a lot of people in determining their well-being and disease. Because if you don't have healthy groceries, you end up buying groceries that will just fill your stomach, but at the end contributes to you developing various diseases like obesity that can lead to heart problems and in some cases cancer. So, as it said, if we subscribe to the social model of health and acknowledge the importance of socioeconomic factors in determining well-being and disease, then we will view threat more broadly and shaped by the social world in which we live. And in this country, we know we live in different social worlds. The haves and the have-nots. Blacks, whites. Because even right now, there is a disparity that is being noticed with the vaccines. As a population, as the number of percentage of our population Blacks have received far more or less vaccination than our counterparts, whites. Again, these are all the social factors, things created by human beings. Inequality created by human beings. Those in power against those out of power, or those without power. Causal pathway. Examine the causal pathways for health and illness can aid our understanding of the diversity of threats to health. Bhopal provides a useful model for analyzing the complexity of causal pathway called a web of causations, which visualizes the interconnectedness of factors that influences health and illness. Again, when you talk of those determinants, they will tell you, clearly explain this interconnectedness, how those various determinants of health play a role in influencing the overall quality of health, level of education, where and your socioeconomic status, your employment opportunities, the environment in which you live, the resources within your community. All of these are interconnected. The stronger those variables are, the better your health status. The weaker those variables are, the weaker or the poorer is your health status. Now, Bhopal's 2008 diagram represents a complex group of health determinants, such as the environment, behavior, and the workplace. You see here, when you say environment here, also you expand it to the physical environment and the social environment. You see, because if the environment, most of the time, when you're talking about this in the context of health, when you see environment, always think of the physical as well as the social environment. The physical environment usually is the geography, where you live. Too much rain, no rain. Good food, good crops, no good crops. Desert, food desert. Is it an area of food desert or there's enough food? Is there easy access to medical facilities? You see, because now we are hearing in some rural areas in this country, hospitals are closing. And you know, when a hospital closes, what will be the impact of those people living in that environment when they get sick? If they have to travel miles for them to go to a hospital in case of an emergency, they might not make it. Or by the time they get to the hospital, they are dead. See, that's when where we talk about environment. What are the things that are available within that community to really promote health? And in some places, that's a challenge. Then you come to the social environment. What are the cultural practices? What are the attitudes of people? Is there a level of discrimination, a level of racist attitudes. Because even now, there are certain studies that have shown that some young African American young men are developing hypertension at very young age because of the racist tendencies, because they are always in this flight, flight, flight fight mode, wherein certain chemicals are produced within their body to react to some of these negative forces that they have to deal with at very early age. They start developing hypertension. And in most cases, depending on this environment, again, life expectancy, even though they could live to up to 70, 80 or more years, most of them die very young. So these are things that when you're talking about factors, you have to expand it a bit, broaden the concept. And behavior. What is also the relationship between the environment and the behavior? Because most of the time, that's also an issue. If the environment, the social environment is so toxic, it's easy for people to engage in some negative behaviors, either to defend themselves or otherwise. And at times, if it's so poor, even though these are worst options, but the human being, they want to survive. And trying to survive can lead them to engaging in negative behaviors that in the long run will make their health miserable and might die even younger. And the workplace. Again, it goes to the workplace is also part of the social, because the workplace is filled with people. How do people relate to one another? How do they respect all the workers? Not only some, and disrespect the others. Is the workplace safe for everybody? And what are the work hours? Because yeah, people might want to get money and this, but if you don't have time to rest, time to sleep, so that you can recoup, get ready to come back and work the next day, you just keep working, 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 and eventually, just like a machine, you keep it going for so long, it will conk. It will just die off. So respect in the workplace, conditions in the workplace, how are people, their work hours, and in some places also, what are the protective gears that they need? Protective, either gowns, gloves, hats, shoes, all of those things that can help them be healthy. You see, because when this coronavirus started, there were a lot of people dying in some of those production plants because one person will be infected, the others, not knowing, work together in a group, pass on the infection to the others because they did not have the appropriate garment, the appropriate protection gear. So you want people to work, You provide a conducive working place for them, a safe working place for them, a good time for them to work so that they have time to break, time to sleep, time to go meet with their family and come back and continue their work. Because most workplaces that provide all these good amenities for their workers are much more productive. It's a win-win. You have a healthy workforce, you have a productive workforce. You have a workforce that is poor health, that is sick, take days or and go to the hospital, day absent and whatnot. You increase the number of people calling sick. And when one calls sick, it means one less hand to help with the work. So those that are still at the work site have to do more. So in a way, you just make the workplace very, very unhealthy. So take care of your people, create an environment of respect, and those who may go or violate some of those conditions or policies be held accountable so that the others can see that if they want to stay employed, these are the certain things that they should abide by. Yeah, we cannot monitor the way people want to think. That's that's just beyond us. But we can monitor what people do, and that is what we can address. So the workplace has to be a safe and peaceful work environment. It also shows that the interrelatedness of these factors in terms of how they contribute to the occurrences and the spread of disease. Most of the time, when a workplace is not healthy, you have a lot of people sick. A healthy workplace always have a better chance of having a healthy workforce and the reduction of the spread of disease. The dominant contemporary discourse for health is one of threat and disease. The dominant contemporary discourse for health is one of threats and disease. Gordon argues that the societal force upon health risk leaves both government and individuals debating the outcome of such risk because there are no definitive answers. Societal focus upon health risk leaves both governments and individual debating the outcome of such risk because there are no definitive answers. Well, again, it's societal focus, if society, because first of all, when it comes to certain when they think of the factors contributing to health, it's beyond the society. Yeah, societal focus is one, but there are other variables that government and individuals can look upon to determine health risks. Health is not just dependent on one factor. Societal factor is one, but there are other variables, there are other factors that can contribute to health. Generating positive health is often a less important priority than preventing and reducing mortality and morbidity. Generating positive health is often a less important. It's often a less important priority than preventing and reducing mortality and morbidity. See, this again, people are much so focused on morbidity and mortality. People being sick and people dying. People sick and dying, rather than spending time on the preventive side. You see, because now we have enough knowledge of what are some of those risk factors for health and what are some of those behaviors that can contribute to poor health. We should be spending more time, more of our resources on primary prevention. You prevent. Okay, you know, okay, the hurricane is coming. Those people who live in hurricane-prone places, what do? They go get plywoods and other, close all the windows and fortify their stores. That is prevention, so that when the hurricane comes, yeah, it might hit the house, but the damage will be minimal than the one who just waited for the hurricane to come. Will destroy the house, will cost more to fix it, and in some cases can even contribute to death. So we need to focus on really preventing things from happening than to cure or to treat, and eventually, in most cases, depending on how worse the disease is, the sickness is, the person dies. I see, I think we have to take away the incentive of excessive profit in the healthcare system, because it pays all those people, the pharmacists, the doctors, the whatever, get more money to treat somebody than to prevent them from being sick so that they don't have to treat them. And those people don't have to die. I think as a nation, I think government and all people that are really involved in dealing with people's health, there has to be a real focus on primary prevention. Take away those wretched environments. Take away those social attitudes. Take away those issues that are missing in certain communities. Provide those things that are missing. Good food, good drinking water, good housing, so that people don't have to be sick. Because when they are sick, it costs more to treat them. Because people want to benefit. Now, when you are sick, people providing, making all this equipment that they will have to use to treat you, everybody gets a cut from your situation. You see, we as a country can do a lot more if we take away this excessive incentive for profit and focus on positive health opportunities, or create those opportunities for everybody to be able to engage in positive health activities. Most health targets which underpin practice are framed around reducing illness. There are some examples of targets that considers the wider determinants of health, the Millennium Development Goals, the magnitude and severity. Now, other factors that can influence what issues are seen as threats to the health are the number of people affected and the seriousness of the threat. So when you talk of the magnitude, most of the time it's considered a threat if 200 people or 1,000 people, then maybe 50, 100 people. Again, the number, magnitude, the more the people, the more it's being considered as a threat. A good example, when this COVID situation came entered this country, leaders were saying, "Oh, this is going to affect only a small number of people, and it won't be that serious. It's going to be disappear in a short while." So guess what? It was never taken seriously. Only to find out that this was a very serious illness. Not only serious, but it's going to kill a number of people. But by then, time that could have been used to prevent the spread of the COVID was wasted. Because now from 10 people to 20 people, and people moving to different states, sharing that, it became a fire that was all over. And now we're dealing with it. So most of the time, it's depending on the sort of situation, you always have to be at the preventive mode, even if the number is not that big. Because if you don't know, the best thing is go with trying to prevent, go with the early intervention. It's much easier for you to say, oh, I overdid this than to say, oh, but I wish I could have. Because could have means you were wrong. You could have done something better. And that's now what most leaders are now saying, that certain things could have been done better. Large and visible dangers tend to receive more attention and are therefore more likely to be categorized as threats to health. And those are common, large, more people, and at times also large and visible dangers. In especially here, large and affecting more people of different groups. See, because you're saying large number of this, there are certain health conditions that have been very, very prominent in certain groups. But in the national dialogue, those issues are not considered as threats. So most of the time, it has to be large and diverse, wherein black, white, Indians. See, because when you look at it that way, you don't leave out any group. Pandemics can be classified as stronger threats because of their scope being across continents and the world. Well, the coronavirus is sure a pandemic, and it sure is a strong health threat because it affects every continent in the world. Notation of mortality, which is death, and mortality burden and morbidity burden, which is disease burden. See, mortality is death, and morbidity is disease, sick people. Impact on quality of life, and chronic and acute diseases can also be brought to bear on how threats are conceptualized. However, some issues that are perceived by society as stigmatized or shameful can be underreported, underinvestigated, and unrecognized. For example, disability. There are a lot of people with some disabilities, but in most cases, when they are reporting about the health status of the country, some of those disabilities are not reported. And besides, some of those disabilities also, the people that are affected are ashamed to report. Say, for instance, mental issues. People are ashamed to report that they have some mental issues because it's a shame. And when things are not reported or they are underreported, they are not investigated enough, and they go on untreated, that can lead to a much, much stronger issue. So you're talking about mental issues, at times child abuse, sexual abuse, and you can name a host of things that most of the time, because of the shame that goes with some of those kind of conditions, people tend not to report them, or if they do, it's not the underreport. Okay, you talk of the media construction and moral panic. Now, if you think right now about, again, we are in a period right now wherein what has just happened, or what is happening right now, you see how the media, one aspect, depending on what your belief system is, you hear different things. Say a good example for our media here, you go to so-called liberal media, they tend to believe in certain the fact, the science around the COVID virus. You go to some conservative website, they tend to not believe much of the science. They tend to believe on some conspiracies and creating a lot of. So we, the consumers of media, have to be very, very careful when dealing with health related issues. You always go to the professionals, the researchers. You go to CDC, you go to NIH, and at times even you go to the World Health Organization, because they have clear facts that are supported by science. Because the media, yeah, some of them, they have their own edges that they had. And at the end of the day, they are not professionals or not researchers. They might just be saying opinion or repeating what others have said. The way that health issues are reported within the mass media influences understanding of the nature of this threat. Media generated scares often emphasize both physical and emotional threats that are posed by everyday occurrences, such as sunbathing, using mobile phone, and vaccination like measles, mumps, rubella. The combination of three vaccines into a single injection, known as MMR, to the measles, the mumps, and the rubella. Despite the lack of science behind many of the claims that are made. So this is what, as I just said, you have to be very careful. It's good to have the media, but don't make the media your when it comes to health related issues. They should not be your source of information. You have to go to the professional website. You go listen, go to CDC, go to the NIH, go to the minority health website. Those, because these are all the information there is provided by researchers whose main interest is to provide adequate information that can help people to improve their health, not to sway their political lineage or whatnot. This is health. You don't fool around with politics when it comes to your health, because politics is important, but politics also at times can lead us to a dark point that will only enhance the politician and not us, the consumers or the citizens. The media plays a role in the social amplification of risk. See, most of the time, media enjoys making, when something is bad, they make it worse. And this you have to bear in mind. Where risk categories are minor by scientific experts, actually elicit strong public concerns and even reactions, resulting in large-scale impact. Media report health scares, which in a greater just promote fear and distraught. So some of these things are things that we have to really be very, very careful. The role of the media is important, yeah, but we have to also make sure that we do the best that we can to reduce those situations that can put us at more risk when we don't use, when we don't have the right information in making informed decisions that will impact our health. When you have an issue or there's a health related issue, go to the source, go to the CDC website, go to NIH website, go to the World Health Organization, or at times go to the Minority Health Organization, or go to medline.gov, medline.gov. Investigate the issue. You'll get the right type of information that you need. So again, the type of diseases that affect populations change as countries develop. Most of the time in most countries, the underdeveloped countries, most of the diseases are infectious diseases. Diseases caused by bacteria or other microbes. They develop, they have clean water, clean homes, they practice some basic hygiene. Most of the time, some of those risk changes. So risk shift from infectious diseases such as cholera in poorer countries to non-communicable and lifestyle-associated health problems such as cancers and heart disease in rich countries. See it again. Microbes, pathogens, infectious diseases that are communicable, pass on from one person to another. Things like cholera, malaria, and all this other diseases that are caused by either bacteria or virus. But when it comes to wealthy countries, most of the health issues or health threats is caused by life and lifestyle. People smoke, they drink, they smoke, they drink too much, they eat too much, get fat, and at times even eat the wrong things. So you see the flip. For poor countries, it's communicable diseases. For rich countries, it's non-communicable diseases. And those non-communicable diseases are as a result of lifestyle, what people choose to do. The World Health Organization labeled this as a risk transition caused by improvement in medical care, the aging of the population, and successful public health interventions, such as vaccination and sanitation. Two great things that have really contributed to the health of populations. Vaccinations that deals with those infectious diseases that used to kill kids below the age of 1. And sanitations, living environment, clean water, do away with some of these filthy, those insects that can bring or transfer some of these other diseases. See, when you sanitize even your home, keep it clean, most of the time you can save yourself from some unnecessary colds or necessary just stomach issues. And when it comes to vaccination, please don't believe what people are saying about they are not helpful, they are not useful, they are used by some people are saying Bill Gates has used vaccination to put chips into into people's bodies so that they can be kind of manipulated or whatnot. That is so false. But again, see, as the saying goes, every minute suckers are being born. There are people who are so vulnerable, so gullible to believe in whatever comes out of the mouth of some people that they think know it all, which is false. The impact of risk to health varies at different levels of the socio-economic development. Goes back to social economic development. The more the society is highly socio-economically developed, the less the risk factors or the different type of risk factors They lower the socioeconomic factors. Then you have infectious diseases affecting the health of the population. Okay, I'll stop here for today. And we will continue the next time. You make sure you take a very good, nice weekend. Stay strong and be safe.